As I enter the Grand Hotel in Vasant Kunj, New Delhi, one of my favorite spots, my thoughts today are onto the Indian food cuisine, which used to be deeply regional, but now it's becoming increasingly homogeneous due to globalization and standardization. Indian food turning into some big chicken, dosa, pizza, biryani remix were my thoughts. Walking into one of the suites where we shoot, we decided that we're going to discuss, do we blame it on the delivery apps or the QSRs or the low attention generation? What is it? And to discuss this, my today's guest is Mr. Abhijit Iyer-Mitra. So you know who he is. We see him almost every day on camera. He's a foodie, a defense strategist, a thinker and provocative, almost 24/7, 365 days a year. Funny and absolutely intelligent. But today we are not speaking about defense and all those serious stuff. We're talking about food, his second love, isn't it, Abhijit?
Actually, food's my first love.
Why are we eating what are we eating now? Everything is quite similar. Homogenization of food, as we are discussing today. Your general thoughts in recent past, like I'm having butter chicken filled in samosa, made no sense to me. We're having chickpeas, paratha. I mean, what is it? What's happening?
So, this is where modernity intersects, right? Because modernity makes everything easy. So, for example, normally with a North Indian curry, you had to first, fry the onion till brown, then add the ginger garlic and fry it till brown, then add the tomato and wait till, all the moisture evaporated and became this thick, rich, red thing. So, these days you get Maggi ka bhuna masala, which is, it's gone out of the market now because nobody went for it. But but you've started getting other masalas like that, which are completely concentrated. You just put that in, and then you just add whatever vegetable or chicken or whatever you want, any additional spice you want, and cook it. It's the convenience of modernity clashing with a lack of knowledge of traditional cooking, combined with the exposure to the internet and things like that, to the outside world, and this need to try other things. You've forgotten, because in India we have this thing, give me the recipe. You don't ask for recipe, you want the technique. It is the technique that makes it. A recipe is just a checklist, right? It's not the ingredient that makes you go, ah. It's the technique that makes you go, ah. There are 100 ways of cooking butter chicken, for example, right?
Apparently, I had recently had in Bombay butter chicken without the butter. What is the point?
What is the point?
What is the point? Eggless cake without the eggs. Yeah. Flawless brownie without the flour.
Eggless, I at least understand because it's a religious restriction. If you want to diet, do you know how many calories the tomatoes are full of sugar? People don't realize this.
Now you go get a garam masala. That just smells like dust. In the Indian context, give us some examples which just pisses you off.
Well, garam masala is the death of Indian food. You start putting anything that you don't like the taste of, you start adding ginger garlic, garam masala, or this latest thing, kitchen king masala.
What is that?
Meat masala, chicken masala, and
oh no, they've started putting peri peri masala in everything.
Peri peri masala is the latest craze, okay? Now, I'm not against the peri peri chili per se, right? Because it's different flavors of chilies. Like a Thai green chili tastes totally different from a Indian green chili. The flavor loss is so immense. First of all, the spices you get, you're legally allowed to extract 60% of the flavor from it before you sell it in the market.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
I see.
Already the elaichi, the cinnamon, we don't use cinnamon in this country, we use cassia in this country.
That's not.
A cinnamon is not as flavorful as cassia. What we call cinnamon in this country is called Chinese cinnamon or bastard cinnamon. The technical term is cassia. The tej patta we use is not bay leaf, it is actually cassia leaf, it is not cinnamon leaf. All spices are water soluble and oil soluble. They've got the compounds in them, the flavonoids in them are water soluble and oil soluble. What we used to do before grinding spices was we always used to soak them in water.
You're right.
To hydrate them.
You're right.
Where the water soluble compounds would be released. Then you grind it. Now the grinding in a mortar and pestle is a very different motion from your mixie. The mixie, what it's doing, it's actually fine chopping it. It's blades in there. It's not a mortar and pestle doing it. On the other hand, if you were to grind it in an idli grinder, But idli grinders are so huge, you're not going to get that flavor,
yes.
right? The grinding then makes the second difference. The third is when you put it into the oil, that's your oil soluble compounds coming in, but you also have much greater control of the temperature because of the water in it. And then because you're not following the process, you've lost another 30-40% of the flavor. So you're left with about 5-6% of the flavor, which is why your masala usage increases massively. My grandmother couldn't, like, sometimes she used to grind the spices. With garam masala, she always used to grind it fresh on the mortar and pestle. But sometimes she used to grind the spices. With garam masala, she always used to grind it fresh on the mortar and pestle. But you know, things like dhania or red chili powder or turmeric powder, they're stored. It was always soaked in water, and she used to say you have to soak it and keep it for half an hour.
At least.
For the flavors to bloom in there. She never used the term bloom. These are all new things. And you know, when you asked her, she used to say, na, erokom korle taste ashe na. Tell me, when the raste ka biryani you get in Old Delhi is far superior to all this nonsense 5-star biryani. And I bet you that Matka Peer Dargah guy in near Apughar, what was Apughar, opposite the old fort in Delhi,
the old fort,
does a far superior biryani. Why? First, he chooses his rice carefully. It's the Sela chawal, you know, the golden parboiled basmati. Only Delhi biryani uses basmati, by the way. Well, some North Indian biryanis, not all. So first is a selection of rice. The second, the whole point of a biryani. Now, have you had a biryani? Have you been to Iran?
No, not yet.
In Iran, this is not a biryani. Biryani is a disgusting liver and meat patty, burger essentially, that's roasted on a tawa and served to you inside a roti.
Oh.
And it's kind of like our tunde ka kebab, which has a light liver flavor in it.
Correct. Gainy.
Yeah.
Gainy.
And that, you know, that minerally flavor that you get from liver, that is what you put into this thing. Now, in all of this, what ends up happening is you don't realize that the meat roasts at the bottom, biryan. You're using an Iranian word, but this has nothing to do with Iran. So when somebody says this came, you know, Pushpesh Pant gave a fantastic thing, ki these were barbarians who didn't even know how to cook. How are they going to come and teach us how to cook? Percent right. You're biryaning the meat. The meat is roasting at the bottom, but the rice, the cooking is rice has two phases of cooking. A lot of non-rice eaters don't even know how to cook rice in the first place. Roti eaters, what I've noticed they mostly do is they boil the rice, drain it and serve it up.
Correct.
That's only 50% of the cooking of the rice. You have to cover and leave it for half an hour for the rice to then bloom, to steam. And it actually, the volume really increases during that phase of the steaming.
Acha.
In a biryani, the absorption phase happens in the water, you drain it in a colander, but then the steaming phase happens over the meat, roasting. So it is the aroma of it's the steam of the meat roasting, that sort of oily, meaty, whatever flavor that's getting absorbed in the second phase of cooking.
Fair enough.
Right. The meat has to be brought, when you're serving it, the meat has to be brought on top of the rice so that the oils below coat the biryani. That is the roasting.
Like it's a science to make it,
it's a science to make it. This is why 99.99% of the hotel and restaurant biryanis you get in Delhi are absolute SHIT. The worst is I see some Pakistani biryanis where they're just putting the rice, putting curry on top of it, pudina, coriander, then one more layer of rice.
But I think that's what they do in QSR restaurants. That's what I'm trying to say. I think in the quick service restaurants.
But then why are you going to restaurants like that?
I think I want to also hear, let's say, the 5 examples of totally bastardized elements that you've eaten.
Look, there's good bastardization and there's bad bastardization. Okay, let's take the Rajasthani lal mas for example.
Oh God, they have taken it to the. I hear you.
Okay, the lal mas was meant to be all about the caramelization of the onion and the garlic. The chili is not meant to be in fact, it is somewhat meant to be caramelized, but it's 3 stages of the chili's cooking process. Okay? The first is the frying of the chili in the oil, which kind of toughens it up. Then is the the talawing of the chili paste with the mutton. And the third is the raw chili paste put into it just for stewing. So you're creating 3 layers just of chili profile out there. You did not put any spices into it except cloves.
No.
There is no elaichi, maybe some pepper. I've had one or two authentic ones with a kali elaichi, a black cardamom in there. And that's about it. Then they'll try to do smoking. Why? Because it used to be cooked on a wood flame and you want to replicate. The smoke actually comes from the chili. People don't realize chili has a smoky flavor all of its own.
Yeah, because when it burns, the
Exactly,
whole house
right.
goes,
Exactly, it goes up your nose. Now, but even the authentic lal mas is something bastardized.
Now.
Nay, even in its authentic form. Because there was no lal mas before chilies came from the Americas, and before they became available. India had a great hesitation in adopting the chili for the longest time. Even though the Americas were discovered in 1492. No, we did not have green chilies.
We did not have green chilies.
We did not have. The heat in Indian food used to come from mustard and pepper. Technically, if you look at it, all food in India prior to 1492, when the Americas were discovered, used to taste like Bengali food. There used to be copious quantities of mustard and copious quantities of black pepper. And it's that thing where that introduction of chili. Now see, this is the good bastardization of food. This is fusion. Then you have confusion, which is the bad bastardization of food. Scrap history that you have, which is not substantiated by anything. It's and it's become something of a market.
It is a marketplace.
It is. It's, for me, pasta in white sauce and pasta in red sauce are lovely.
Okay.
I support it.
Okay.
Now, it's gotten to such a stage where I went to Rome with my research assistant. And the poor chap, he couldn't eat local Italian food.
Why?
Because he found it too bland. Where I stay, I always stay with my friend Francesca. The third day I was really worried he was going to pass out from not eating. So I cooked him Indian pasta. And throughout that 2 hours of the cooking of the pasta, she was sitting there and screaming, "Abhi, what are you doing? You are destroying my kitchen. We don't even feed dogs in Italy this. Even street dogs will not eat this in Italy."
But I have to add, I had a date once, Italian. He was like, "Can I make you pasta?" This was in Bombay. I'm like, "Yeah, go for it." You know what he made? This is how it happens in the villages. He took a cauldron, put water. I mean, what the technique is, had the noodles in or whatever. He put okra, and that's what we eat in, I'm like, bhindi dali, pasta mein.
Now, remember, this is another issue that's happening in Italy, where all the things you hear about Italian food these days are just as bullshit as what you hear about Indian food these days. It is this concocted nonsense about the purity of Italian food, which is absolute rubbish. But in Italy, they have serious food historians and they have serious archives. And they're telling us, these days, if you watch an Italian TV channel, they'll tell you, you shouldn't put so much garlic. You just put the one clove of garlic and you remove the germ, that green part inside the garlic.
Yes.
You remove the germ from inside the garlic. It should just flavor the oil and then you remove the garlic. And boss, I still have my grandmother's diaries. She went to Italy in 1932 or 36 for her honeymoon, right? It was a 2-year trip. Un dino mein it was a big thing. You went in ship and everything. At home, if my dad had, I remember this, if he ever brought garlic or chicken into the house,
That's finished.
My God, bawal ho jata tha ghar pe. But when she went to Italy, she's writing in her books in 32, 33 about how much garlic was used and it was delicious and things like that. And at home, jab Italian banta tha, she would cook authentic Italian, which was full of garlic. That was the only time garlic was allowed into the house. Now, in India, we've had a lot of the same things happening. The processes are the same. The problem is our written records and things like that are so bad.
So sad.
Our archaeology is so primitive. We've not been able to accurately reconstruct our food history, whereas in Italy, they're doing a very good job. So there's actually real Italian food is everything that an Italian YouTuber tells you it is not.
Indian foods, we spoke about the loss of techniques, which causes the loss of flavor right now. Are we also making food which are purely Insta-worthy and purely happy with social media but makes zero sense on flavors? Have you experienced it? I have, and it's very upsetting.
Look, I have had so much crap which looks very, very good on Instagram. And when you replicate
Tastes
it,
like
it
shit.
tastes like absolute shit. Why? Because you eat with your eyes, kehte hai na?
हाँ.
So they are doing it for Instagram hits. It's kind of like, think of Nigella. Most of Nigella's recipes are really bad. But you'll still watch her because she's great fun to watch. Like, my mom keeps making fun of her. She's like, oh, the roundness of the pepper and the squareness of the chili. And she tries to, like put her chest up and do this whole Nigella
romanticize the
routine kind
cooking.
of thing. And she finds Nigella hilarious. But she sexualizes her food.
How does an Indian sexualize food?
I think they're all trying to be Sasta Nigella Lawsons. Other culprits, the biggest culprits in all of this are these food vloggers.
Oh God.
हर घटिया restaurant में जहाँ पता नहीं they would have put their own shoes and chappals into the chicken curry. That's how dirty it is. Or the mixed vegetable or whatever. And they'll eat there and say, oh, bhai saab, ye kya? That's actually my organic reaction to when they say, oh, bhai saab. Tell me something, why does the white man go to Thailand and enjoy authentic Thai food? Why does he go to China or Japan and enjoy authentic Japanese and Chinese food who are not trying to white up their food for him? But India feels the need to white up their food for the white man.
I'm sure there are tourist spots in the other countries which kind of sort that out for the...
In Thailand, you're not going to get a white Thai restaurant.
Sad point, but a point.
Right. I mean, there's a whole history of how Thai food became popular. It was a concerted government effort of standardization and things like that. Now it's going off into all its, that homogenization has stopped. It's going off into all its original wild forms and things. And it's delicious. Thai food has become much richer. Contrary to popular belief, immigrants actually preserve the best and the worst of their home country much better.
Nicely put.
Than the home country itself,
natives.
which moves on. There is only one place that actually makes parmesan the way it's meant to be made. It is not in Italy, it's in America, in Wisconsin.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Interesting.
This is the bullshit of Italian food that we've been sold. American Italian is more Italian than Italian Italian. So, the philosophy Italian food is fresh, local ingredients. The thing is, Italian food is about the food. French food is about the chef.
It's a take. I have to give you that.
In Italy, you have to respect what you have. You don't drown it out in crap. All of what we consider great Italian food today is the cucina povera, the poor logon ka cooking. And the poor people's cooking, do you think a very poor nonna whose entire family was working out in the fields would say, today I won't make the amatriciana because I don't have the correct guanciale cut of the pork and I don't have the San Marzano tomato and I don't, I only have onion and garlic, so I won't put, because the recipe say, the International Amatriciana Control Bureau, it will come and arrest me, so I won't put this.
No.
She used to use what she had.
Wholesome food for the family.
Good, wholesome food. This basil is the other biggest bullshit of Italian food.
Kya bol
A whole year my grandmother spent there. There was no basil except for a month in summer.
What are you saying?
In the absolute south.
Don't we use that as like a staple, making Italian food in Indian households?
Yeah. Olive oil. Only in the south, olive oil was extremely expensive.
And you
in
never
the
heat
north,
it, and you never heat it.
And exactly, it's raw. In the north, you used to cook with pig lard.
Acha.
In the south, they didn't have much pork. They used to have goats and sheep. Pigs were all up north. The cooking in the north was all done in pork lard.
Okay. Our own Indian food economy, especially during festivals, celebrations, is like a hyper-local, massively robust economy. मतलब बवाल हो जाएगा economy का, लेकिन हर एक household दिवाली के लिए 10 लड्डू, जलेबी, गुलाब जामुन जरूर खरीदेंगे. What has shifted from then to now, and how does it truly impact the economy? I'm talking about small vendors, small.
So first of all, we need to remember the whole point of a celebration and eating a lot was to infuse money into the economy.
Yes.
Right. you also celebrate, everybody else also celebrates. That Diwali wala, that jalebi wala or the laddu wala should also make extra sales at that time so that he can have that feast with his kids.
Correct.
Right? That was the whole point of feasting on these celebratory occasions and things like that. Now, what's happened unfortunately is at my Durga Puja Pandal, all of them, they have now started serving biryani and kebabs and things like that, which would never be served at a Durga Puja. So there's been a bad homogenization, but that celebratory economy remains the same. You give it to local vendors. Thankfully, the one thing you will never see at a Durga Puja is McDonald's or Domino's and nonsense like that. At least if it was Nirula's, once upon a time, not the new Nirula's, but the old authentic Nirula's, I would have been very happy. But no, it has always been about Sarve Sukhinam Bhavatu. Let everybody celebrate on that day, from the poorest to the richest. And that is why you have the bhog on all these occasions, where you feed anyone who walks in is given free food. Right? For a reason. Because everybody should go home happy. This is why, this whole idea of a small private wedding, this is not an Indian concept. Because the Indian concept is the only person who's actually followed Indian tradition of a wedding are Mukesh and Neeta Ambani for their 3 kids. No, genuinely, they are the only true Indians left. Because the whole point is, the more people that come in and eat your food, the more they will bless you.
Correct. In fact, I'll tell you one thing. I was at Lajpat Nagar. There's an entire lane of Afghani food. And I love that food is something else.
Mazar is my favorite in all of those.
Noosh Jun, I think, once or twice.
Noosh Jun is Iranian.
Is Iranian. Great food, jo bhi tha. And I came out and I saw the breads. And I asked them, ye bread kitne ka? I didn't know what they called it. Koi denge. तो उसने उसको बोला, अपने बंदे को बोला, रोट दे दे. It's actually
रोट.
I didn't realize
lavash,
that.
sangak.
I didn't realize that. Literally like roti.
Different bread is named different things, but they're all synonymous with bread.
Rot. First time. Back to India. Now we seem to have very efficiently. We are efficient people. I have to give us that.
Not really, but anyway.
They were efficient people.
No.
We imbibe overseas very, very well, but we are shit at making overseas imbibers. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yes.
In many ways.
In many ways. So, simple thing. Indian Chinese, according to me, is better than Chinese Chinese.
You find the taste better.
Yeah.
You like it better.
Except, say, Cantonese food.
I don't like Indian Chinese. But
I love Cantonese food because, I think they play around with textures and things. I think the only northern Chinese food I really like. What sells as Sichuan here is not Sichuan at all.
I'm sure.
I don't like that. It's in Nepal they use it called Timur, the Sichuan pepper. It's called the mala flavor profile. It numbs your tongue. It's a different kind of heat. It's not a chili or a pepper heat. Mustard heat is different. Mustard heat goes up your nose like wasabi,
yes, like
which is not real wasabi. That's actually horseradish that's going up your nose. Pepper is a back of the tongue heat. Chili is a whole of the mouth heat kind of thing.
Nice.
Right? I fundamentally believe this is the finest. Indian Chinese and Singaporean Chinese are the finest evolutions of Chinese food that there are.
That's a good genre in itself.
Why have we not been able to export it?
I have no idea. I only eat, when I was overseas, I only ate chicken.
Why is it that, pies, steak and kidney pies, pork pasties and things like that become popular all over the world? But Indian samosas or Jodhpuri kachoris are not such a craze throughout the world.
No, they're quite robust. I thought they were quite robust.
Abroad, very difficult getting an authentic one. You'll get lots of fake shit. Okay. It is so bad that in Delhi, you will not get proper Chettinad food. You will not get proper Andhra food. Because Andhra Bhavan's also gone down the drain.
I love Andhra Bhavan.
Only restaurant I have been to in the last 5-6 years that has retained its authenticity is that Paragon restaurant in Cochin, Trivandrum, wherever, which does the proper Kerala Mopla biryani, which is, for me, that is the absolute pinnacle of all biryanis in India.
I see. Not tasted, will do.
It is worth going down to Kerala just to eat at Paragon.
In Orissa, a lot of tribal belts have red ants, right, as protein. Kab ka chal raha hai? A big recent resurgence for protein as insects as the new protein has come up, which is quite known to the tribal community, and that's how they got the protein. Comment on how it is what it is now.
You know, there's a reason we eat what we eat, because our ancestors tried everything. There's a reason we narrowed down on four-legged animals: goats, sheep, pigs and cows. Okay, there's a reason we narrowed down on chicken. There are hundreds of birds to eat. Why did we narrow down to just chickens and marginally say duck and geese? Okay, and turkey? Because they taste good. Prawns and crabs and lobsters are technically insects.
What do you mean they're
But
insects?
They're insects. They have no spine. It's the carapace on it, the external thing that gives it bodily integrity. They are insects.
Okay. Versus
But
ants.
they are 3 delicious insects.
Okay, fair enough.
Now, in Thailand, and in China, I have eaten locusts, grasshoppers, ants, scorpions, different kinds of insects. And I'm eating them and going, bhai, ye taste kya hai? There is no flavor coming in any of this.
But maybe it was only for nutrition, God knows.
Maybe it was just a protein supplement. You know, one of the earliest known instances of grasshopper locust eating is actually from about 2,000-3,000 BC, where in Sumer, where a Sumerian king is asking his governor for 2 basket loads of locusts because they're in season and they're considered a great delicacy. Okay, and I guess it was because locusts, there used to be a plague of locusts, so the best thing to do was to eat the locusts up, because then no waste not, want not. It's a great source of protein.
It is a great source of protein.
Right, but these are affectations.
Aren't they just literally, I think we, the way we go about it, like we are too, for example, there are parts of Russia where they're literally eating horse meat because there's nothing else, right? No protein.
They won't be eating horse meat, they eat elk meat,
Okay.
Or deer meat, which is very common in Yakutia and the Siberian Far East. Horse now. Before it used to be elk and whatever the local deer is, whatever is available to you locally, right?
Correct.
But there's a reason venison has gone out. You think it was beyond our capabilities to domesticate deer and start commercial deer farms? No. Ostrich, they've been trying to feed us ostrich meat for the longest time. In Australia, you have crocodile meat farms, but crocodile meat doesn't take off. Why? Because it tastes awful. Ostrich meat tastes awful.
Never tasted it.
I've tasted all of them.
Oh, wow.
And they taste awful. There's a restaurant in Tanzania called this Carnivore.
Nicely done.
And they'll serve you giraffe meat, this meat, they'll serve you this weird meat, and I'm like, and you know I'm a confirmed non-vegetarian. And it tastes awful.
No, just maybe to your Indian palate.
No.
You can't judge that.
Nobody there. I went in a white travel group. Nobody wanted to go back there. There's a reason that meat hasn't picked up in popularity. Why did India adopt the chili so enthusiastically that today scientists are confused if chili came from the Americas? Because the native, it is always the point of origin that has the greatest biological diversity of a species. Today, India's biological diversity of chili matches that of the Americas.
How amazing. I could never draw that correlation. Ever.
But it's happened, right? So this is something we adopted, and it's a very good adoption of things. So if we were happy to adopt chilies, why were we so hesitant to adopt giraffe meat? Because it tastes like crap.
So you're saying we have better taste?
Why is it that every civilization, everywhere, narrowed down on just goats, sheep, cows and pigs?
They were available all over the earth.
No, they were domesticated.
Oh yeah, they were domesticated, yes. Good books to follow about ancient cooking, if you have any. Do you know any?
There's none.
So sad, no?
There's none, because what happens in India is that either we write a whole load of bullshit. I've been looking for original sources. Now there's one guy who does fantastic historical Indian food, Mala Akbari. He's got all the books, and I've not bought them. I've just gone to his place and read through them. And a lot of them are lovely. A lot of them are archaeologically reverse engineered from archaeological remains of what was found in pots and things like that. But most of our writing was done on leaves, which disintegrate. So we don't have a lot of it.
Or the rest of it blew up in Nalanda and it just went up in flames.
Must be.
Maybe that's
I
what
don't
happened.
think they had a department for culinary studies at Nalanda.
But it must be a part of the scriptures. I'm sure it wasn't like a separate. I'm sure they're up in flames somewhere. Abhijit, for sure.
I'm sure, yeah.
You love dictators. You want to serve them Indian food. What would you serve them?
Okay, this would be a thali I would serve them.
Okay, fair.
And it would have Gobindabhog rice from Burdwan cooked in a very, very simple pulao. No veggies and things, just the basic whole spices, maybe a little bit of onion, cooked in Trihut ghee from Bengal. I would cook them Bengali Niramish alur dum,
Okay.
which is
Specific.
aloo dum without onion or garlic. I would cook them a Kerala veg stew. I would cook them a mutton pepper fry from Tamil Nadu. I would have a second rice, just a steamed rice made for about 3-4 podis, you know, the
Podis.
dal powders that you get from Andhra with Bengal jharna ghee.
Wow. It's also Odia to have that.
I would serve them a Dilli ka korma.
Okay.
I would serve them a Punjabi vindaloo. Serve them a northeastern pork and bamboo shoot curry. I would serve them Bengali kosha mangsho and doi mach, which is blackened mutton and fish cooked in dahi, in yogurt. And from Kashmir, I would put Rogan Josh and Yakhni. And one very specific dish, mats, which is meatballs cooked in with apricots. And I'd also add a Parsi apricot and meat dish for, look, I'm focusing on meat because they're non-vegetarians. Because the whole point of Indian food is have you seen these days the way Indians eat? It's a whole heap of
pile.
rice with just 1 or 2 dishes. We never did that. It was meant to be 10, 12 very small quantities of vegetables you'd cook. And you'd have 12, 13, it was like a Japanese bento box.
Correct. वो पूरा थाली का बात
What is a bento box? A bento box is a highly refined, sophisticated thali. So, you know, in India, what has happened is, why do you have every Western chef worth his salt obsessing over ramen? Just one dish of Japan. And there are great ramen masters. Where are your biryani masters in India?
Oh, that I have
Because
to,
you get shit biryani in every single metro.
Questions to ask.
Questions to ask. Right? Why don't you have a khichdi master? Because khichdi, according to me, is one of the most exquisitely refined dishes to come out of India.
Correct.
Anybody who's had a proper bong khichdi.
But that's a regional flavoring everywhere in
But
India, na?
everyone I've cooked it for, from Kerala to Tamil Nadu to UP to Punjab to Kashmir, when I cook my khichdi, which is a special kind of moong dal and a special kind of Bengal rice, they're like, kya banaya hai tumne? And I'm like, bro, this doesn't even have onions or garlic in it. It's the simplest thing that there is. A simple thing like sambar sadam.
Sambar?
Sambar sadam, which is sambar rice,
Sambar
but
rice,
it's
yeah.
mixed. It's like a khichdi. Why are there no sambar sadam masters? Even something like idli, why aren't, I think because 99.99% of the idli you get, even in Madras, Bangalore, Kerala or Andhra, is crap. Nobody will like your food if you don't, nobody respects a person who doesn't respect themselves.
That is a takeaway.
Nobody will respect a food or a cuisine.
That is a
You know,
takeaway.
we can turn food in this country, if it's done right, into a $1 trillion industry. If Italy can turn it into a $300 billion industry, 1.4 billion
understand.
people, so much variety. You know, the difference between the Northeast, Tamil Nadu and Gujarat is more than the difference between the Far East of Russia and the UK.
Word. Correct. So we are just bad marketers.
We're bad marketers, we've destroyed ourselves, the self-destructive tendency.
We're having nano jamuns these days. And nano gulab jamuns.
Bhai, at least first learn to make a gulab jamun properly before you start nano jamun. First gain self-respect. Stop
Poignant
seeking
point.
validation. Once you respect and celebrate yourselves, others will come in.
enjoy it with you.
And start commercializing these things. You need to take pride in your native varieties of rice. You need to take pride in your regional cooking, right? You need to take great pride in it. You need to keep striving for refinement. The first time I made a proper biryani that tasted like a roadside biryani, which I think is the pinnacle of biryani making.
Correct.
It took me 15 to 20 years to get that right.
No.
Now I've nailed the technique.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Right. But it's taken that long.
Abhijit, either you must become a chef, should be a hotel owner, a massive critic, or start something on food because you're wasting yourself.
So I'll tell you why. I did train to be a chef for about 6-7 months, but then you know what happened? It was a Le Cordon Bleu course, but I decided against it. You know why? Because I love cooking so much, I can't make it my profession.
Oh, I get that.
I really cook for the people I care about. So I just can't cook for anybody. And I take great pride in my cooking. For me, my cooking is showing somebody how much I love you. Okay? I can't just do it commercially. It almost cheapens the thing. Now, if I do it commercially, the problem in India is the work culture. You have to be there 24/7 to maintain quality. Otherwise, if you leave it to the people, because chefs in India don't take pride in their own this thing.
I mean, I would say most of them get bogged by the commercialization of it, but there are passionate chefs that I've met.
Some.
They are there.
But, running a restaurant is a very mundane thing.
It is.
It's the mundaneness that will get to me.
So you're not opening a restaurant.
So I'm not, because I don't trust anybody with that daily quality control.
So if you have to
honestly, trust me, if I open a restaurant and then either the biryani or the veg, and I'm much more passionate about vegetables, even though it doesn't seem that way.
No, it doesn't.
Vegetables are actually much tougher to cook.
Fair enough, yes.
Getting meat right is easy. Getting vegetables right is a chore.
It's a chore.
Anything with my name on it that doesn't come out perfect, I'm going to start taking the dekchis and bashing the chefs over the head with it.
I don't think you should have
murder ho
anything
jayega. Murder ho jayega. So you don't want me opening a restaurant.
So what are you doing offline about it?
I'm going to open a YouTube channel.
I was dying for you to say it.
I'm going to run it irrespective, even if it doesn't get subscribed. Because I'll keep telling them, if you put this in your biryani, I'll come to your house and I'll slit your throats.
It's not going to happen. When is this launching?
As soon as I shift into my new house, which is another never-ending tale.
And I'm coming for food.
Okay, yeah.
Cheers for a
Cheers to
lovely
that.
talk for this.